And hello everyone, welcome back to this video. So the last video actually talked about how MAC addresses are like cars we put into parking lots, where the parking lots are the IP addresses, and the parking warden, which assigns the correct MAC address to the correct IP address, is usually the router. And that the router will have this thing called DHCP, or Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. This thing is seen on Wikipedia, of course. And of course, all these things are pretty high level stuff. You don't want to keep talking about theory without rooting ourselves in a little bit of practical knowledge. So this video is here to help us to explore. Now this video here is to help us explore some of the more practical aspects of networking. I'll be using a Manjaro Linux PC to do it. Of course, you can do it with Windows or Ubuntu or Mac as well, Apple. But again, all of these things are a little bit more, they have slightly different tools for each one of them. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Okay, this is 122 in. So first thing first, I need to tell you is to install some interesting, important pieces of software. Okay, the software you will need to install. Okay, I will just type it out straight for you. We will have net tools and nmap. So these are the main things we will install. So sudo pacman as net tools and nmap. Okay, so this is what you will type. Okay, I already got them installed, so you don't need to see me reinstall it again. But yeah, these are the tools we will need. Okay, what do these tools do? The net tools here will contain important information, which important tool which will help us to decipher, how the computer, what IP addresses and MAC addresses our computer has stored. And usually they'll be stored in the computer's local address resolution protocol, or otherwise known as Arp table. Okay, the Arp table. Okay, so if you want to access the Arp table, you will need to use the net tools. So net tools. Okay, net tools isn't a command by itself, but it will contain various packages. Okay, the next the thing you need to install is nmap. Nmap actually helps you to figure out which devices are connected to your current network. So let me take you through some of the websites I referenced. Okay, so the websites I referenced, not Wikipedia this time. I went to Network World, how to check your Arp entries. This is how I referenced. And the second one is the how can I find devices connected to my network. This one is on itsforce.com. It's got a very cool Linux logo. Or I don't know. Yeah, it's Tux the penguin. So I really like Linux. So these are the websites I visit. Okay, you can go check them out on your own time. But yeah, just to give credit to the sources of these websites first before I start. So let's start proper, and let's demonstrate how to find which. Okay, because this computer which I'm using now, it will have a table on its own which will match all the current IP addresses it has to a certain MAC address. So let's find out the ARP table, and to do that we will use ARP. ARP. It's very simple, just type ARP, so you don't really have to memorize so much. Okay. On the website you might see them use ARP-A as well, which will display exactly pretty much the same information but in a slightly different format. What is the main difference here? Okay, the main difference is that you can see all of these IP addresses are now in bracketed form. Okay, if there is a name, okay, if there's a name here, for example, underscore gateway, right? You see this thing underscore gateway, it will be displayed alongside the IP address instead of over here you just have the name. So I recommend you use the -a if you want to display both the name and the IP address one alongside the other, so that you can see which name is connected to which IP address. So if you take a look at the IP addresses on the Arp table of this computer, it will show 192.168.4.1, 192.168.4.0, and a lot of other 192.168 ... on this Arp table. So each of them will be connected to a MAC address. Of course, this initial version of Arp will actually show you the MAC addresses here. For example, this is 44.85.003C1202. Alright. So that is a MAC address of one of the computers that is on this network. And then you have the .29.211. Actually, these are the same IP addresses. I don't know why they are the same one, but yeah, this is how you access the Arp table on your computer, and this is installed using NetTools. So you have to install NetTools and of course all the prerequisites in order to get this done on the command line. So again, try to install it like so. Okay, just a special note. Where is your router address? Okay, where is your router address? Your router address is, well, usually it is the gateway. Okay, router IP address is usually demarcated by this thing called gateway, because gateway is usually almost synonymous with router. It's not exactly the same, but it's synonymous in the home setting. And at home it's pretty much the same thing, and the MAC address here is 48DD0C41882D. This is a MAC address in hexadecimal notation. I'll not go through what that is now, but just suffice to say this, what I'm highlighting here is the MAC address of the router or the gateway. This is more specifically speaking. So so we know the IP addresses and the MAC addresses of all the devices which are so-called connected directly to this computer, right? So what's the IP address of this computer, and what is the MAC address of this computer? Okay, for that, it's about 8 minutes. We close this. Right, for that we use IPA or ifconfig. Okay, so this is to find IP address MAC of this PC. Well, not exactly just this PC, it's this wireless card. Okay, so let me break it down and explain it to you. Usually when we type IP space A, we will be brought to this interface. And how do we know which is which, right? Because we have wireless cards, we have Ethernet cards, we have other things as well. For example, this is the local host, which is denoted LO. Okay. Usually local host is denoted by this IP address 127.0.0.1. So this is usually LO, local host. Okay. This one we can sort of rule out. It's not a wireless card, it is not an Ethernet card, because obviously that it says it's a Docker thing. Docker is for, if you've seen my other videos, how I play with Docker, it is for that. It is to establish this connection between the computer and the Docker. It's a virtual connection, so to speak. Now the real cards are over here. Okay. You can see this ENP blah blah blah. Usually this pertains to the Ethernet. How do I kind of guess it's the Ethernet? First thing first, this computer is not connected to the Ethernet. So you can see that there is over here it says no carrier. Right, no carrier. So this, or actually the better way to see is that you see this state is down. So if the state is down, it means there's no internet connection. And from that, because there's no internet connection and I didn't connect my computer through the Ethernet to get internet. Okay, it's a mouthful there. I didn't connect this computer to the Ethernet to gain internet access. Therefore, I say this is the Ethernet connection. The easiest way to see whether it's Ethernet is to take a look at the first letter here. Of course, you can see this thing is the letter E. E is for Ethernet. That's how I remember it anyway. And of course, if you want to look at wireless connections, okay, we can tell here because I'm connected to the internet via wireless. You can see the connectivity state is up here. And the way to connect through wireless, or the way to tell it's wireless, is using the letter W at first. Okay, the W letter at first. Okay, so now we have established that how do we find the IP address and the MAC address of this computer, so to speak. So if you take a look at this Ethernet thing, we will see that there's no IP address here, but there is a MAC address, AT FA5B AT6B4B. Okay, this is the MAC address of the Ethernet card. Okay, I just like to call it the Ethernet card. I don't know if there's a proper name. I just like to call it the Ethernet card for now. If there's a correct name, I'll probably correct myself later. Okay, so so the next thing to note is you can see that there's also, for the wireless connection, there's also another MAC address here, C858 blah 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 blah. Okay, so that is the MAC address of this wireless card, and this is how you find it. Okay, the other stuff don't worry about it first. Okay, but again, I want to emphasize, if there is no connection to the internet, likelihood is that this wired connection, Ethernet connection, will not have an IP address at all. Okay, so but when the wireless connection is connected to the router, it will have an IP address because the router will assign it the IP address via DHCP, which is the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. So how do I find the IP address? It's over here, 192.168.7.215. This is the IP address. Now, okay, so you may be wondering, what is this /22 here? Okay, what is this /22 here? This is known as a subnet mask. Okay, subnet mask, which I have not explained before. That one I will have to take a whole other video to explain it. And it's like, hey, if you have seen subnet masks in Windows, it will usually look like an IP address. Sometimes you will see subnet masks in this format, and sometimes you will see subnet masks using this format. If you use ifconfig, okay, so this one you might have to again install separately. I can't remember if we pacman ifconfig. Okay, there's no ifconfig. It's probably packaged together with NetTools, if I'm not wrong. Don't take my word for it, right? So you will see again the same four interfaces here. There's a Docker, the Ethernet part, the local host, and of course the wireless. And this time they are kind of arranged in alphabetical order, and it looks a lot nicer to read. So don't worry about all the other numbers and things first. Just note that the IP address is here. Alright, and just so you know, this is called the IP version 4 address. Okay, IP version 4 address. Okay, if you see this thing called inet6 here, and then you see all of this here, this is also an IP address, but it's in a different, a more updated version. Okay, so I'm not going to cover too much on that. Usually the IP addresses we deal with are the IP version 4 addresses. Okay, IP version 6, it is another topic for another time. But I want to focus on subnet masks here. And remember, I told you just now that the /22 is a subnet mask of this IP address. When will you find it here? You'll find it in here in this net mask here, 255, 255, 252, and 0. Now you can actually convert 255.255.2520, and you can convert it to a shorthand notation of /22, and you can do the reverse anytime you want. There's a technique to do it, and there's a reason why subnet mask exists. That's again kind of beyond the scope. I cannot cram so much content into this video, but just so you know, this /22 can be expanded into this notation, and likewise this notation can be converted back into this /22, and this is where you'll find your subnet mask. Alright, so what have we found out so far? We found out what our IP address of this computer is, along with the subnet mask here. Just so we have found out the IP address along with the subnet mask. We have also found out the MAC address of this computer, or more specifically, the MAC address of the wireless card of this computer. Because each little device on your motherboard, it will have a different MAC address if it's connected to the network. Okay, so I have to be very specific here so that less confusion is caused. I cause less confusion. So we found the MAC address of our wireless card. We didn't find the MAC address of this computer, but more specifically this computer's wireless card. So that's just for your information. So don't get too confused why there are multiple MAC addresses associated with the same computer. And likewise, all the MAC addresses you see here are not exactly of that computer, but probably of that computer's wireless card. Okay, so if it's connected via Ethernet, it will probably turn out to be a different number as well. Okay, last but not least, just want to quickly run through, since we have sort of figured out, our own computer's MAC address, our own computer's IP address, as well as the Arp table, which contains all the MAC address listings and the IP address listings that are of all the devices connected to this computer. We also want to find out what are the devices connected to the router, right, and not directly to this computer. Okay, so for that we use the nmap tool. Okay, and if you type nmap, you will see a lot of gibberish at first. Of course, it's useful data, but to the first-time person, if you are looking at this for the first time, it's just too much information. Okay, let's jump straight to the point on how we can use nmap. Okay, 17:40. So yeah, it's about 17 minutes in. So the too long didn't read version is that you have to install it first. In Arch Linux, you use the pacman tool, or Manjaro as well, you use pacman, or pacman for Manjaro. For Debian Ubuntu, you use apt-get. Okay, so alright, so the next thing you need to look for is to use this command here. Alright, you use this command, sudo nmap -sn 192.168.1.0, and then you see this /24. This is the subnet mask. Okay, so this is the shorthand version of the subnet mask. There's a special name for it, but I won't go into it so that I don't confuse you for now. If not, it's a lot of data overload. Okay, so again, so where do we find the? Let's break it down. What is the command being used here? Nmap is being used. It uses this SN flag. What is SN over here? If you take a look at the help button, the help line, SN here is for a ping scan. It disables the port scan. Now, what is a port? Yeah, that is something we don't have to deal with yet. It is still an important part of networking, and it deals with how applications connect to the internet, and that's the port. But we don't have to deal with port scans just yet, because we just want to deal with IP and MAC address. We keep it simple for now. Okay, so since we don't want to deal with port scans, we want to keep our scans simple. We want to just find out which devices are connected to our network. We use the ping scan. Okay, so that clears the SN part out of the way. Okay, so what IP address do we feed to it? Okay, here we see that is 192.168.10/24. So what are we actually trying to find? We actually need to find, if you want to find all the devices connected to a particular network, you need to find the IP address of that network, which is usually denoted by a .0 over here. Usually it's a .0, but not always the case. You have to go you have to see it if it's a case. You have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. But usually it's a .0, and at least for this case on my computer it's a .0. Then you also need to enter the subnet mask. How do you know what is the network ID? Okay, so there are a few ways. There's the cheapo shortcut way, and there's the proper way. Okay, the proper way has something to do with using the IP address and the subnet mask to determine your network ID. Okay, so you use the subnet mask. Okay, for example, let's see. You use this subnet mask here and you mash it together with this IP address, you will get the network ID. There's a special technique for that, but I won't be going through that in this video. The easier way, okay, is to, well, I guess you could look at the routing table. Okay, shucks, I just introduced another new concept which probably you don't need to know at the moment. Okay, but if you use the route command, which I think you need to install as well. Okay, if you use the route command, you will be able to take a look at all the networks that are currently connected to this computer via the routing table. Okay, routing tables are normally reserved for discussion when we talk about routers, but even your computer has a routing table. So anyway, the quick way, if you know what routing tables are, you can get it through here. Okay, 192.168.40. Okay, the second cheaper way I like to think about it is to go to your Arp table and you look for your gateway address 192.168.4.1, and you look for the .0 entry next to it, and this will be your network address. So these are the two very quick ways that you can quickly reference and get your network address, or network ID, network IP address, pardon me, your network IP address. Okay, so these are the two very quick ways. The third way is to use a subnet mask along with your IP address. So that one is another video for another time. So this 192.168.40 is your network ID. And what is your subnet mask? Okay, we will need to use the IPA command, which shows a subnet mask of /22. Now again, this may be a little bit confusing. Why am I plucking random numbers from here and there? So just bear with me for the moment, and just say that we are using the network ID and we are combining it with a subnet mask, and we are going to feed that into the nmap. So sudo or nmap -sn 192.168.40. This is a network ID, and we have to put in the subnet mask, which is the /22. Right? And if you want to think of it as just copy and paste, that's what we are actually doing here, except I don't use the sudo command here. I just want to see what happens if we don't give it administrator or root privileges. Okay, so it should start nicely, and it will scan this entire network for all devices connected. Okay, it will take some time to clear up the confusion as to why we pick certain numbers and put it down. What exactly are we doing here? Alright, so I'll have to take more time to delve into a bit more theory of what subnet masks are, how to use them, etc. etc. So that's probably for future videos. But here we can see, long story short, okay, in this practical, we can see that there are a few things connected. First thing first, here we see is 192.168.4.1. This is the IP address here. Okay, so this is actually as you can see, it's the gateway. This is the gateway. Alright, this is the gateway which is over here. Okay, so it pings it for the latency check, of course. 192.168.4.28, and of course every other single IP address which is connected to this network or connected to the router. So what this nmap will do is that it will ping every one of these IP addresses, and you'll be able to find all of this information. Okay, I wonder if it changes if we do sudo on it. Okay, sudo nmap. Because apparently over here it shows the MAC address, which is quite useful. Whereas over here it doesn't show, it just shows IP addresses. Okay, so it might take another 30 seconds or so. Alright. Yes, apparently if you use the root privileges, not just the IP address is known to you, but also all the MAC addresses, and you can see what's exactly connected to this computer. You can see that this one's an Arrow, Intel Corporate, there's a Roku here, Intel Corporate, Lighton Technology, whatever this is. I'm not that sure, but if you use root privileges, definitely you'll be able to get more information. So I hope this is helpful. It gives you a brief overview of how to probe your network and to find which devices are connected to your network, where your IP addresses are, where your MAC addresses are. So it gives you a little bit of a feel so that you're not, trying to probe your network kind of blind. Yeah. So this gives you some tools to see what's going on in your network, and who's connected. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again. Bye bye.